A lawyer and his family become the target of his former client who's out for revenge. To make matters worse, the vengeful man proves that he's always a step ahead of them. Max Caddy gets released from prison after serving his 14-year sentence. Elsewhere, Leigh Bowden and her teen daughter Danny discuss what logo to make for their new business. Later that day, they join Sam Bowden, Leigh's husband and Danny's father. Together, they watch a movie, but they're bothered by the man smoking in front of them. Unbeknownst to them, it's Max, and he's way too entertained with the movie to even notice that he's bothering other people. After the movies, the family buys a quick snack, but when Sam turns to the cashier to pay for their bill, the woman claims it's already paid for. She gestures to the man outside, and Sam sees that it's Max in his car. Nervous, he quickly tells his family to go inside, but by the time he looks back at Max, he's already gone. The following day, Sam plays racquetball with his coworker Lori Davis, who seems fond of him. After their game, he suggests not seeing each other outside of work for a while, making Lori think that his wife is bothered by it. Sam admits that Leigh doesn't know about her, but Lori thinks their friendship is harmless. After he sees her off, he goes to his car, but someone grabs his keys. To his surprise, it's Max, who asks if he remembers him. Sam pretends not to, but as Max refuses to return his keys, he confesses that he remembers him as his client 14 years ago. Finally, Max returns the keys and mentions that he's considering settling down in their town. Sam wonders if the man is following him, but the ex-con claims that it's a small town, so running into each other is just coincidental. Bothered, Sam decides to drive off, but as he does, he hears Max mumbling that he'll learn about loss. When Sam stops his car to confirm what he just heard, Max has already left. That night, Sam suggests going out of town for the holidays. However, Leigh reminds him that they can't take the time off, and Danny has summer school. This makes the father rant about how the school is punishing their daughter for experimenting with substances when they also did those in their youth. Later at midnight, Leigh wakes up and hears fireworks outside, but as she opens the blinds to observe, she sees Max looking back at her. Alarmed, Leigh quickly wakes her husband, and they both head to the backyard to chase the man off. However, when they get out, he's nowhere to be found. Sam later explains that Max was his client, and he thinks that he's bugging him because he's upset about failing his case. Before leaving for work the following morning, Sam tells Leigh to keep Danny indoors in case Max does something. When he gets to his office, he tells his colleague Tom Broadbent about Max, but they can't do anything since he hasn't technically committed any crimes. Instead, Sam filed a restraining order, but the hearing is 10 days away. He then recounts Max's case, where he took advantage of a woman and beat her up. Sam knew that the victim was promiscuous, but he buried the reports because what Max did was too grave. Tom is disappointed in him for doing this, but Sam justifies his actions given what the man did to the victim. He was also sure that Max wouldn't know because he was illiterate. When he goes home later, Max joins Sam by the streets and reveals that he learned to read and studied law while serving his time. He even represented himself to apply for an appeal during his sentence. Knowing what he's implying, the lawyer offers monetary compensation just so he'd stop bugging him. However, Max says no amount of money can ever bring 14 years of his life back. After this, Sam returns to his office, where he receives a call from Leigh telling him to come home right away. When he gets there, he learns that their dog was poisoned, and he thinks that Max is responsible for it. Right away, Sam reports the man, but after Max gets searched, the police dismiss the case due to lack of evidence. However, they learn that Max has a ton of money after inheriting his late mother's barn. Days later, the family is still bothered that Max got away, but Sam insists that if he does something again, they'll likely catch him. While attending a parade, Sam spots Max in the crowd, staring at his wife. The man confronts him, but Max makes lewd comments about Leigh, which drives Sam to attack him. However, he acts innocent, so the crowd pushes Sam off. Later, Max goes to a local bar where he meets Lori, who's already had too many drinks. She was stood up by her date, whom she admits is a married man. He then shares that he's an ex-convict, but he claims that he got arrested for attacking a sheriff who was harming another woman. Convinced that he's a good guy, Lori continues flirting with him, and things eventually elevate in the bedroom. To her horror, Max cuffs her before hurting her. The following day, the gruesome incident reaches the police, and witnesses claim that Max was responsible for it. When Sam reports to work to check it out, he's surprised that the victim is Lori. She recounts that since he stood her up last night, she felt reckless and wanted to get back at him by sleeping with someone else. Now she regrets her actions. Sam encourages her to testify against Max because he'll keep repeating his crimes, but Lori refuses. She knows that she'll get persecuted because of how she dressed and acted. Her relationship with Sam might get revealed as well. Later, Sam speaks with Lieutenant Elgart, who subtly implies that Sam should use his family as bait to draw out Max's psychopathic tendencies. Since they can't put him in jail without evidence, they must trigger the man into doing something. However, Sam thinks this is outrageous. Instead, Sam soon hires a private investigator named Claude Kerserk to watch Max. When asked what his connection to the man is, Sam admits that he was his public defender after Max harmed a young woman. Kerserk then points out that Sam's daughter is nearly the same age as Max's previous victim, making him worry. One night, while stalking Max, Kursek reports to Sam that the man once had an inmate that complained about his smoking, so he broke his neck and bit off his tongue. However, the officers couldn't prove that he did it. After the call, Sam contracts Lori, who's now planning to move away. He apologizes for dragging her into his mess, but as their conversation progresses, Sam notices that Lei is standing behind him. When he drops the call, Lei confronts him about his infidelity. She theorizes that Max chose Lori because she's Sam's mistress, so she hits her husband in rage. Danny witnesses this, so she locks herself in her room crying. Lei brings up how this isn't the first time that Sam has been disloyal to her, and they had to uproot their family to start over. She yells how it was pointless, given that he did it again, but Sam defends that Lori was merely infatuated with him. He then admits that he's scared because of Max. He believes the man harmed Lori because he knew she wouldn't testify to avoid destroying her reputation. Due to Lori not testifying, Max probably knew that Lei would become suspicious and assume their relationship, thus destroying Sam's home life. Sam encourages his wife that since they know what Max is up to, they can work together as a team to defeat him. However, Lei remains unconvinced, so Sam ends up sleeping on the couch that evening. Elsewhere, Kursek follows Max to a diner, only to find that the man has paid for his meal already. He then confronts Max, telling him to leave town. However, the psychopath is unfazed and even threatens Kursek not to trigger him. After this, Max stops by Sam's house and hands a dog collar to Lei, making it seem like he just found it. However, when she realizes who he is, Lei starts taunting him. Despite this, Max implies that he knows she's not happy, adding that things would have been different if her husband didn't betray them both. Just then, Danny comes out, and as soon as Max lays his eyes on her, he speeds off. Meanwhile, Kursek meets up with Sam, reporting that following Max might become expensive, given that the man is careful and aware. Instead, the investigators suggest hiring a hitman to care for the madman. This offends Sam, reminding Kursek that he's a lawyer, therefore he can't act against the law. That night, Danny receives a call from her new drama teacher, claiming to be checking on his list of students. He notes that she sounds troubled, so he encourages her to talk about it. Unbeknownst to her, this is actually Max, who successfully charms the young lady. The following day, Danny shows up to her drama class and meets Max, who's smoking. He shares it with the lady and further charms her by comparing her situation to the novel she's been reading. He also acknowledges how Danny shouldn't be treated as a child, encouraging her to read more mature books. This piques the young woman's curiosity, but she soon gets suspicious and questions the man. Max admits who he really is, though he feigns innocence about her father's accusations. Danny gets scared, but the man promises that he won't hurt her. Instead, they can be honest with each other, which is something Danny can't do with her parents. By manipulating her into thinking that she's in control, Max successfully gets close to Danny and kisses her. However, Lei soon finds what they smoked in Danny's books, which leads Sam to confirm that Max went to his daughter's school. Desperate to protect her, he tells Kursek to hire men to kill Max. Before they carry this out, Sam meets with Max at a diner to give him a warning, only to receive an unfazed reaction. When Sam gets home, Danny worries about what her father will do. She then giddily tells him that Max didn't force himself on her. Seeing her behavior, Sam aggressively interrogates his daughter, scaring her. He then tries apologizing, but Danny screams at him to leave. Later, the hired men set out to beat Max to death. Sam oversees this, but to his surprise, Max overpowers the hitmen. Knowing that Sam is watching, Max declares his dominance over them before leaving. The following morning, Sam contacts a renowned lawyer, only to learn that Max has already hired him. Not long after, Max files a restraining order against Sam and reveals that he recorded Sam's threat when they met at the diner. The judge grants the restraining order, and Max's lawyer even petitions for Sam's disbarment. Because of this, Sam asks Kursek for a gun, but the man warns him that he'll be imprisoned if he kills Max. Considering this, Sam breaks down, ranting about how Max made him look like the threat. He's also being summoned for a 2-day emergency session in Raleigh, making Kursek predict that Max will break into his house while he's away. However, this will make it justifiable to kill him. With this, Sam pretends to fly to Raleigh, knowing Max is watching his every move. In truth, he sneaks back to the house with his wife and daughter's help. Kursek also creates traps in Sam's house to help detect if there's an intruder. While he stands guard downstairs, Lei finds Sam reading the Bible in bed. He recounts that Max told him to read the book of Job, where God took everything from the man to test his faith. This made him curious about his enemy's thoughts. Nothing happens that night, but the following day, Danny finds a book outside, which Max left for her. That night, the trap moves, which drives Kursek to be vigilant. He goes to the kitchen but only finds the Bowden's maid. As the man pours himself a drink, Max reveals himself disguised as the maid, whom he's already killed. He then strangles Kursek before shooting him. The commotion wakes the couple, but by the time they go downstairs, they only find the bodies. Sam then discovers that Kursek's been killed with a piano wire, which he noticed was missing when he played the instrument. This makes him realize that Max had been breaking into their house without notice. Infuriated, Sam grabs Kursek's gun and goes on a rampage until his family pulls him back. The next day, the family flees. Sam calls the authorities about what happened the night before, defending that he fled the crime scene since his family is in danger. Therefore, he asserts that they'll only return if Max is caught. Unbeknownst to the family, the madman has been hanging below their car the whole time. Later, the family takes their houseboat into the middle of the Cape Fear River. That night, rain falls as they dine together. Sam checks on the anchor outside because the boat keeps rocking itself. However, Max sneaks up on him and chokes him until he falls unconscious. The vicious man then enters the houseboat and confronts the women. He teases Danny, so she tosses boiling water at him. However, this barely affects Max, who then locks up the woman in the cupboard while he takes advantage of Lei. Unbeknownst to him, Danny is gathering supplies in the cupboard. Sensing that Lei is trying to take his gun, Max stops and cuffs her. He then drags a bound Sam inside to make him watch what he plans to do with his family. When Sam begs him to take it out on him instead, Max stomps on his head. Lei then yells for him to stop and sympathizes with him, claiming that she knows what it feels like to watch her life pass her by. She then pleads with him to do the deed with her instead and not to her daughter. Max concedes and he lights up a cigarette in triumph. However, Danny douses him with the kerosene she hid, setting the man on fire. Max immediately jumps in the water, then grabs onto the rope that's connected to the anchor. Shortly after, Sam tries controlling the boat through the raging river, but the half-burnt Max gets back on board and points a gun to his cheek. He then puts up a mock trial about Sam's negligence in his case 14 years ago and makes him admit that he buried the report about the victim's behavior. Sam confesses but argues that his victim's past doesn't justify what he did. This makes Max hysterical, asserting that he was his lawyer and that report could have saved him from all the hell he went through for 14 years. He then screams at the top of his lungs that Sam will feel all the kind of loss that he experienced. Just then, he points his gun at Lei and Danny, commanding them to remove their clothes. However, before they do, the storm grows more intense, leading the boat to spin and throw Max to the fall. This gives the family the opportunity to jump in the water, but before he can follow, Max drags Sam back inside. The two then battle it out while the boat is constantly moving. Soon, Max finds the gun, but he fails to shoot Sam. Sam then crawls on the floor and uses Max's handcuffs to shackle him to the boat. The boat then crashes into a huge rock and gets destroyed, leaving the two men washed ashore. There, Sam plans to kill Max by dropping a rock on his head, but the tide drags the man away from him. As Max sinks deeper into the river, he sings the hymn, "On Jordan's stormy banks I stand," as if ready to accept his fate. Max finally disappears into the water, and Sam washes his bloody hands while trying to absorb what just happened. Not long after, he finds his family safely ashore. After this gruesome incident, the family decides never to speak of Max or his crimes again. At this point, Danny knows their lives will never be the same again. She accepts this, knowing that hanging on to the past makes her die a little every day. So she'd rather live.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.